Kate Chaplin.
Here.
Is Dwayne Bolt here?
I'm here.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw you. Robin Sue. I think, okay, see ya. Marie Yarborough.
Here.
I think I saw you too. Lily Simas.
I'm here. I have no idea if I'm voting.
It says on the voting on the sheet that you are voting. Okay. Christy LaSquadro. Did I see her? Right, I don't think I see Christy.
She sent us a message that
Okay.
she accidentally logged herself out.
Oh, okay. John Bench.
I'm here.
Here. Susan Allen.
Here.
John is Eisenhower, sorry. Did I see John? Did I say, I don't know if I saw John. Ingrid Kashmar.
Here.
Jim Sawyer. All right. Heidi Lawson.
Here.
Jessica, what's that? Jessica Stewart.
Here.
All right. Jessica Bass. I don't see her here yet. Jen Horner. Roger Saint Amand. Jennifer Bonilla. Gary Burr.
Here.
I thought I saw you. Okay. Tom Reeve. Saw you.
Hello.
Hey, Darcy Throckmorton.
I'm here, but I don't have video.
Okay, welcome. Aaron Brown.
Here.
Okay. Tammy Tripler.
Here.
Richard Davis, I don't have attending. Emmy Sawyer.
I didn't see her.
All right. And Amy Palmer.
Here.
All right. Did I miss anybody? All right. Thank you. Let's see. I've got to toggle back and forth. Sorry. So a voucher went around earlier today, and hopefully everybody saw that and has signed that. Are there any questions regarding the voucher? All right. Seeing no hands. I will take an approval of the minutes from the April 13, 2020 meeting.
So
Move
moved.
to approve the minutes.
Second.
So did I see, was that Tom and Lily? I think if
Yes.
we're going to say that we approve, can you just say your name? And the reason I say that is I'm toggling between two pages of people. So I think I have Tom as a move and Lily as a second.
Tom moved.
Sure.
Okay. Any comments or questions? 30 minutes. All right, hearing none, I will go through the voting for approval. Heather Jones, I vote yes. Todd Graham.
Approve.
Charlie Ray.
Yes.
Dwayne Bolt.
Approve.
Marie Yarborough.
Approve.
Lily Simas.
Approve.
Christy LaSquadro, has she joined again?
She's trying to get on. If she's not on,
Okay.
I can move into place.
All right. John Bench.
Approve.
Ingrid Kashmar.
Approve.
Jim Sawyer. Haven't seen him. Heidi Lawson.
Approve.
Jessica Stewart.
Approve.
Has Jessica Bass joined yet? All right, then I have Gary Burr,
Approved.
Tom Reeve,
Approved.
Aaron Brown, Tammy Tripler,
Approve.
Amy Palmer.
Approve.
All right. And that was everybody, so there weren't any nays. Thank you. Public comment, that, as we know, has changed. And Mark, did we receive, or Mark or Selena, did we receive any public comments or questions prior to the meeting that need to be read in?
I checked with Selena this afternoon, and at that time, we had received no public comment. So should we receive anything during the meeting or following, we'll report it out during public comment at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Mark, I will turn it over to you for superintendent report and updates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, good evening. It's nice to see everybody, albeit virtually, but it is good to see all of you. Happy May. This week in May is Staff Appreciation Week. Many people refer to it as Teacher Appreciation Week, but it's a week that we recognize try to recognize all of our staff, and including certainly our teachers, but our support staff and others. And I'd just like to give a shout out and say how very thankful we are to have them with us for everything they're doing and all the supports that they're giving our students. And certainly want to acknowledge and recognize them. Wish we could do that in person, but we hope to do that soon. I'd also like to just extend further acknowledgement to our food service folks. Barb Neely, our principal at Connors Emerson, has really done a fine job networking with those folks, and they've gone above and beyond, and they're doing phenomenal work serving food for all of our students across MDI and all of our communities. So can't thank them enough for what they're doing, extraordinary efforts, and really appreciate that. And certainly our custodians and other support staff who, whether they're working within our buildings using health and safety protocols or remotely, all their contributions mean so much during this time. To our administrators and our board members, thank you for your continued flexibility and support. And certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our students and our families during these times. The flexibility and patience and support they've exhibited is amazing. And we want to acknowledge that. Those are words, of course, but we hope that through actions, we can show our gratitude in the weeks and months to come for our students and our families. Trying to move business forward, we'd like to tentatively schedule a policy committee meeting on the 28th. And that'll be obviously a remote or virtually. We have a number of people that regularly participate in those, so we'll circle back some items on agendas. And certainly if there are any teachers, staff, or others that would like to participate virtually, we can provide a remote link to do that. So we're looking at Thursday, the 28th as a possible time to hold that. So just to pencil that in. End of the year activities, those conversations are being widely held at all of our schools. I know as we begin getting back in the queue of all of our board meetings, principals reports and newsletters, you'll hear from all of our building principals and our particularly K-8 level and high school. I can't say enough how we understand this is a very difficult time for students and families, whether that be promotional ceremonies, recognition ceremonies, certainly graduations, and all of those things are in the forefront of our minds. And I know principals are working tirelessly with their staff and communicating with students. So there'll be information that will be forthcoming very, very soon on that. We certainly acknowledge that we can't replicate those activities that have been time-honored traditions right now, but we hope to be able to circle back and do that and do what we can to work with people to just acknowledge what a special time it is, and anything we can do to keep that momentum going. With that, we're starting to see a lot of requests for summer camps and programs and use of our buildings. And certainly, boy, don't we wish we could just give the green light and say, we want to see those things happen. But at this time, it's very uncertain. And I just want to make sure that the message is out there and we're consistent that things like summer camps and basketball camps or SFOA are all things that are important, the arts and music and activities that would normally be held in our buildings are on hold right now. We cannot commit to any of those things for two reasons. Number one, first and foremost, we have to keep the return of students and staff to our schools in our mind, and anything that we support that might be ancillary to that could be perceived default as we're returning to school, and we're not sure about that yet. And also, we need to make sure that our buildings are secured should they be needed for other purposes. So I just want to make sure that folks know that we're thinking about that. We're monitoring things, but at this time, activities and summer programming, we've had to say no to requests that need decisions immediately. And we'll certainly continue to update boards and work through our boards and our building principals. But I didn't want any false assumptions out there about those pieces. Certainly town meetings are up in the air as well. Use of school facilities. We have great relationships with our town managers and our select boards and councils, and would continue that. But again, any use of public space, which schools are public spaces, we need to make sure that we can ensure the health and safety of folks, including our staff and others. So we'll work closely to see how that unfolds. But at this time, we're on hold and awaiting guidance from the state in terms of what that might look like. Finally, I'd like to just give a shout out, commendation to Matt Haney in the high school and his staff, and certainly students. They were the recipients of a very prestigious award through the United States Department of Education. Mount Desert Island High School was recognized as a green ribbon school, and certainly that's amazing for our kids and for our communities. We were one of 55 schools across the nation and US territories to be selected. So it's pretty significant. And I'm very, very proud of the work they've done in leading our communities and our state and nation. So thank you, Madam Chair. That's my report.
Sorry. Thank you. Are there any questions? I'm going to sort of toggle between the two pages. So if you're waving, keep your hand up. Okay. All right. Well, then I will move on to the Julie.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see everybody. I just have a very brief report. I want to start off just by thanking everyone who contributed to the April Vacation Camp program. Our partners, Camp Beechcliff and the Wendell Gilly, and Art Waves and SFOA, and all of the music and art and world language and PE teachers who contributed to the program. So I just want to recognize them. We're having ongoing discussions about how we would use any time should the board vote on a calendar that permits end of year time, and how that time will be used by teachers for reflection and discussion about students and meeting with students and parents. And once I find out what the dates are and all of those pieces, we'll continue to have those conversations, and then I can update the board at the next meeting about the requirements that we are putting out to staff, or the parameters that we're putting out to staff. You will notice at your local board meetings, except not at MDES because we didn't get it on the agenda on time, that as usual, this time of year, local boards are voting on Bar Harbor as the fiscal agent for our title funds for K-8. And also that those funds can be expended to support students. Because of the disruption in schooling and the move to remote learning, we have not fully prepared or gotten input on our Title I plan. We also don't know what the final allocations are going to be. We're told that some of that has been, is likely to be curtailed. So we have typically used our Title I monies to support extra literacy support and instruction in the schools. We have also traditionally applied for Title I money to support summer school at Trenton. So I anticipate that it will be some combination of that kind of help. I don't think we have any plans to radically change that, but the actual amounts and how that's going to be used may look a little different this year. And last, we are still waiting for the application for the CARES Act funds. We know that we're going to be seeking reimbursement around technology and food and special education. We have to create projects that will take us through to September. I'll be working closely with the admin team and also with Melissa and with Mark to create a plan and a set of projects for those CARES Act. And should anybody want to see what we put in for our application, I'm happy to share that. I'm happy to dialogue with you about the decisions that we're trying to make. It's a little bit up in the air, and they've been very cagey. There's been some information that says that the application will not be that difficult. There's been some additional information that says that it is possible that those funds will be subtracted from other grant funds according to some formula. We really don't know yet. So as I get more information, I'll be happy to pass that along. And that's really all I have. Unless there are questions.
Thank you, Julia. Do we have any questions? I don't see anybody raising their hand. Thank you, Julie, very much.
Thank you.
And Mark, do we have any updates from subcommittees? I know you mentioned trying to get a policy committee going for the end of this month.
I have nothing at this time, Madam Chair. That's why I put the policy piece out there, because I was mindful we haven't met in a while.
Okay. And then we don't have anything under discussion items. Has anything come up since the agenda was put together?
No, not that I'm aware of. And Selena, if there is anything that I missed, please chime in, but not that I'm aware of, Heather.
Okay. Well, then I will move to action items, Mark, and I'll hand that over to you.
Well, thank you. So what's obviously been on everybody's minds of late is the transition to remote learning. And we've appreciated the support of our students, our families, and our teachers, and certainly the board and communities for what we know is very difficult with remote learning. But with that in mind, people are wondering, what's the end date look like? And I want folks, before I make a recommendation to the board, to know that we've tried to be very thoughtful in exploring this question. It's not as easy as saying we end on this date like we would normally in our traditional setting. Everybody knows that remote learning has been it has not replicated what we do in the classroom on a daily basis. We're doing our very, very best, but with that, there are some challenges, whether they be technology, whether that be how that student learns best. There's a whole menu. And in short, whatever recommendation I make, it's somebody invariably may not agree with it or may not be happy, but I want folks to know that we've tried to reach across and ask for that input. I've spoken with certainly at length in the last week and a half, 2 weeks with our administrative team, including all of our building principals and directors. Everybody's had equal voice, equal say. I reached out to our teacher association presidents. We very much appreciate the relationship we have, and we want to make sure that teacher voice and staff voice is heard and acknowledged. And so we heard from that constituency. I've also been in constant contact with area superintendents, the Hancock County superintendents. And I want to note that, this is one of those pieces where we all don't need to do it the same way. I acknowledge that, similar to the AOS. However, there is some sanctity and continuity, and ending the date for our students on a common time within a common framework has some benefits for our vocational students and our regional programs and things of that nature. So with that in mind, I'd like to make the following recommendation to the board. I should also mention too that I've been in regular communication with the board chair and our and AOS board chair and our other board chairs too. So I don't want anybody to think that this has been done in a vacuum. So with that, I'd like to recommend to the board for consideration an end date for our students on Friday, June 5th, 2020. I would note that and there's a caveat to this certainly, but had we not used any storm or contingency days, most of our schools would have finished on the 10th. There are some variations depending upon power outages and so on. So, and the, that end date is given consideration of things that we need to do with students between now and that time frame. Of note, and that's probably the most significant for students and families, but of note for our staff, we were considering some options, and I had this discussion with our principals, with our teacher association presidents, and about it. We contractually end on the 16th of June, Tuesday, the 16th of June. But would we want to consider the idea of ending for our teachers or staff on Friday the 12th, and then holding 2 days in abeyance and working with the possibility of maybe needing to use those days in August if there was a continuation of remote learning or other pieces. But it was very complicated. There was no clear consensus across our teacher groups and staff. So with that, I'd also like to make the recommendation that we honor our contractual obligations with our staff and conclude their obligations on Tuesday, 16th of June. I'd also like to say that if that is approved by the board, there are certainly some things that people are going to want to know. How we're going to close schools out, what remote learning successes were, what our challenges are, having the opportunity to conference with students and parents, having the opportunity to, as we've done in the past, allow teachers time to close out the year. There's a whole varied host of things that we have to figure out, and we want to be able to do that. But the first step was having approval for end of the year dates. And if the board should approve those recommendations, then information would follow on those specific pieces. I'm pleased to take any questions.
Todd and then Lily, and all right, hold on, I'll start writing this down. Todd. And then,
Thanks, Heather. So Mark, you and I have talked about this in great length, and I'm disappointed that we're not going to utilize those last few days for education. I feel like our community and our country, the world's been robbed of a lot of things lately, but our students have been robbed of education, especially those first 2 weeks. And I'm disappointed we're not using those few days for yet another touch with the students who really need it or want it before we close. I do feel more comfortable hearing that there is a plan to come around and to talk to students and the parents, especially those who are interested, to review how this past few weeks went and what the accomplishments were and where they're headed for the fall, which, as you know, is still an uncertainty. So I just wanted to vocalize that one more time. I'm disappointed in that. I will support this, but really that we're connecting with parents and students one more time before the close of this year.
thank you, Todd. I have Lily and then Teresa.
Just to clarify, the students would end on the 5th and then the teachers and staff end on the 16th. Is that correct?
Yeah, Heather, may I respond?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that is correct, Lily. That's my recommendation. And I didn't, the ending date on the 5th is fairly universal across Hancock County for public schools. The 16th would meet what we normally would have done through our contractual obligations. That is correct. And I would note too, folks haven't asked the question, but working with Matt Haney, the principal of the high school, and other area schools, I believe Mr. Haney is recommending that our seniors would be done on the 29th of May, which is a Friday, which is traditionally what we would have done. So thank you.
Okay.
Is there an opportunity for given that June 5th being the end, is there enough opportunity for students to feel like they can close out the year? I don't know. There's so much I'm worried about, and not that I think another between the 5th and the 16th is going to be necessarily that much more beneficial educationally, but I'm concerned about education, but I'm also concerned about their mental emotional feelings about whether or not they feel like they've gotten as much as they need out of each class, and they feel like they can go to the next, whatever it is, specific, like in a math class. I just want to be sure that students feel confident that they're able and will be moving on to the next. And even if we say, yes, you can move on, I can speak for my own son, is just concerned that he's not going to quite have what he needs for the next level of classes. So I will support, I don't know enough about all that's been going on. I feel kind of out of the loop, actually. I miss sitting around the table with everybody, but I just want to be sure this is truly the best thing for our students. Thank you.
May I respond, Heather?
Yes.
This is both in kind to Lily and Todd's comments. As an educator, it makes me proud that you're probing these questions. I appreciate how you're weighing this decision that you have to make. In the end, there are some kids and families for remote learning that they've had the point where they need some relief. For others, they're at the point where they need more. I would say this, for none of our students, any of us believe that we're replicating the exact experiences we would in our classrooms. And I think we have to look at these uncharted waters in a couple of ways. One, we're all in this together. Number two, we can look at the year in thirds or basically quadrants, however we want to define that. But up until March, we were humming along, and then all of a sudden, boom, March is here. And there's no question that in this period of time, in this transition, for some students, we haven't met the same experiences. And that's not at all their fault. It's not the fault of our teachers. This is new territory for us. And I think, Todd might have said it earlier. There's a strong possibility that we're going to have to continue with remote learning in some capacity for the foreseeable future. And if that's the case, then we have to build upon what we're doing well, and we have to find ways to further connect with those students and those families. And we're going to need time to do that. And so that is very, very much foremost in our mind. But at the same time, one of the decisions or pieces I was weighing is that, okay, if we continue that out, is that going to be beneficial for our students? And that was a consideration. And so I think you folks are asking the same kind of questions we did, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
All right, Lily, one more.
Just if it is being considered, I know we don't know this now, but to do any kind of remote learning in the fall, is that something that we can participate in discussions about that, or is that just administrative decisions?
Heather, may I?
Yes, please.
Well, certainly the delivery of curriculum and instruction is administrative and teaching in nature. But the short answer is we wouldn't want to do anything in a vacuum, and we wouldn't want to do anything without the support and approval of our boards. I think that goes without saying in anything we do. So for me, I would certainly welcome and embrace the opportunity to work with our boards to make sure we shape it the right way for our kids and our schools.
Okay. I'm just gonna read off the next few names because people have raised their hands, so I want to let you know that I do have you down. Next I have Teresa, then Marie, Tammy, and Christy. So I'll go to Teresa, please.
Thank you. A question, I guess, is all these laptops were passed out, and many of the high school students and middle school students have had their laptops all year. And I know some of the younger ones have received it since all this has happened. Will the students be allowed to keep their laptops during the summer if there's opportunity, and if they can, would there be opportunity for them to log into some sites like over the internet to assist them where they may be lacking, say, in math or reading or something? Because there are sites out there that students often turn to for extra supports. And I didn't know if the laptops were going to be considered to be left with the students for such opportunities, or if everyone will be turning in their laptops as they do every summer.
The short answer, Teresa, is we were discussing this morning with the administrators, and there's a variety of reasons, but first and foremost is the technology, the servicing. So our plan was to recapture those devices, but certainly there are going to be students, whether they be students that have IEPs or other needs, that we might need to work with families that may not have access to resources. So, you know, I don't think there can ever be a one-size-fits-all approach, but overall, our plan at this time is to recapture those devices, to make sure we're servicing them, to make sure that, and they're available, because without those devices, whatever we do with remote learning doesn't happen. So we're gonna need to bring those in.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Marie.
Yeah, so I just wanted to echo what Todd and Lily said as well, about this real sense of loss that our students have already felt educationally. I mean, we know about the social loss and we know about all those things because we're dealing at it. You know, I think about, you know, how was the 2 weeks that we had off taken into consideration when considering to further eclipse the year, you know, take more time away from the year, in addition to those 2 weeks that we lost. Not saying there was a better way to do it, but just, you know, just the reality, if you tally up what they've lost educationally, I consider those 2 weeks as a huge part of that. I am very concerned, as like all parents are, and I'm sure all board members and teachers are too, and principals, about what this looks like in the fall, not regardless if we go back to school in a building or we go online, like what our kids have lost. Part 3, you know, if you're able to control and keep everybody in line in your house in terms of social distancing, like we've been able to do, my kids' only interaction with the outside world right now and their friends is the touches they get with those teachers and with that classroom, even though it's only an hour a day or whatever it is. And so to me, that's just like another loss. I mean, school week break was, you know, we worked around it. I mean, I still had to work from home and I took time off and things like that, but my kids missed like just even seeing those faces on the other side of the screen. And and especially from really, I mean, it affects the very motivated learners one way of not having rigorous academics going on. And so too, does it affect, as you know, in a very different way for the kids that we're losing because of the online learning isn't, you know, working for them. I also am, you know, as a parent, I just take off all hats except for the parent hat. Like, I want to know how my kid's doing. I want to know that they're prepared. I want to know what they really have done. And I know we can email the teacher, and I know it's the same sort of rules as when we have our conferences. We can reach out to the teachers whenever we can, but the games are changed. I mean, the whole thing is different. And I just want to know where they are. I mean, I don't want to be sugarcoated like, oh, they'll be fine. You know, we'll fix it in the fall. I think we owe it to our community to figure out where these kids are and how we're going to figure out how to move forward. And I think we're up to that task, but that communication piece about what that looks like, I think is really important. But, the other part, and this is just more just like a logistical part, we're not supposed to think about things, but we talk about it all the time. When we talked about moving the calendar around, what does it do for our community? Like, we didn't even know if camps are going to be, operational. They certainly won't be operational that soon. I'm literally thinking about, like, I work from home, and I know I can schedule my meetings. I'm sure other parents around the time that the hour and a half that they're logged into their Google Classroom, with live instructions. So what does that do to parents who are like holding on by a thread to try to get some, do some work that is paying for their health insurance or paying for their, their roof over their head, to be able to do that in a way that is doable. And again, I know that's just supposed to be one small part of it. We need to focus on the education of the kids, but just what is lost and what is gained by, what are we gaining, I guess, is my question, by ending on June 6th instead of when we're supposed to. That's it.
Thank you, Marie. Mark, do you want to respond to that, or?
I can, in large part, I agree with many of Marie's points and questions, but I'll respond if she would like her questions, but I know you have other folks in the queue, and I don't want to be redundant.
Okay. Yeah. I think, the one thing we can say that we hopefully gain is this opportunity for the teachers to reach out to the parents and talk to them about their student. And then also the opportunity for teachers during that week's time frame, teachers and administration, to work on what the fall will look like. And if we do have to go back in a remote situation, utilize that time to figure out the good, the not so good, and how is this going to work, and be much stronger in the fall. Next I have Tammy.
Hi, I'm just hearing different parents and board members talk. I'm assuming that each school is vastly different in the amount of work that students are doing and the interaction they have. I really feel for teachers. I know we lost time, but I think without those weeks down, teachers would have just gone right under, because they had no time to really prepare. This is like a whole different world, almost a different planet they're being dropped in, and saying, okay, you sink or swim. And I think most of the teachers in our schools are swimming really well, but we do have students that this is so overwhelming, and the families now that are having an opportunity to maybe work, but don't have anyone to be there for their student, is kind of that odd balance, because their students really need to be there, but also they, the parent or guardian needs to work. I would really love to teachers have an opportunity from all across the district this summer to have the opportunity to work together, to say, hey, what worked, what didn't, instead of even just in our own schools. I think it would be a really good resource for all of our teachers and administrators to be able to reach out to each other and maybe have like a little mini workshop or several mini workshops to figure out going ahead how they can bring students back up to speed, or if we have to do remote learning, how is that going to look? It can't look like traditional learning. I know that's been a struggle for everyone concerned, and I just want it to become better if we have to continue remote learning. I want it to be something that kids look forward to instead of dreading, and the same with families. So I think that end of the year time where the students and the teachers have that extra time is going to be very valuable for families and teachers and everybody involved to make a plan going forward, but also to assess where the students are. So I think, I'm, like everyone else, I'm torn that we've had to lose the time educationally, but I don't think we really had much of a choice for, what was happening. Teachers and administrators did the best they could, and now, families are too. And I think we are all in this together. But I would love to see teachers to have that time to assess the data, but also to collaborate with each other across our district. I think it would be really helpful for them to even talk to each other about the frustrations that they've had, but also the positives. What worked really well for students that are accelerated. So I'm looking forward to those things, but my voice
Thank
is just one of many. So
Thank you, Tammy. Christy?
I'm kind of tagging on to what Tammy said, but I'm a little concerned about that week that the teachers are going to stay on and without the students, and what actually can productively get done that week. I mean, yes, if they can meet with parents, that's one thing, but to try to come up and evaluate the way the learning has been and design a plan for the fall, as well as get our schools ready. I mean, Mark, you just said our schools aren't ready to be open. So I think the idea that our teachers are going to get into their classrooms and clean out their classrooms between now and June 16th, it's not going to happen. And so I just want to say I'm disappointed that the consideration to add those 3 days to the fall for the teachers to come back early and have those 3 days for training, to work on online learning if we need it, or to get our schools ready is not under consideration at this point. I'm just really disappointed. I know our teachers need a break, and I know we've overworked them, but I feel like those 3 days in the fall are going to be, would have been far more valuable than 3 days in June.
Heather, may I respond quickly to one piece?
Sure.
I just want to make sure, thank you, Christy. I just want to make sure the board's aware. We are undertaking steps to allow the retrieval of materials through our health and safety protocols. So we are beginning to, or will be beginning through the building principals to bring back staff on a limited basis using those health and safety protocols to get into their rooms, retrieve things to support remote learning for the remainder of the year and to close that out. So that's an important piece, but so I just wanted to make that distinction. I didn't want folks to think that that wasn't going to happen. In addition, we're working to figure out also how we're going to do that for students and families to retrieve those materials. That is on our radar. We didn't want to be presumptuous. Our first step was to see what the board wanted to determine for end dates, and then those are pieces that we'll be bringing information, and that'll unfold here as well.
Mark, are you done?
I am, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry, I'm unstable connection here suddenly. Do I have any other questions or comments about, does anyone else have anything?
Ingrid.
Oh, thank you, Ingrid.
Has there been any consideration of doing a survey to students and parents about how what's worked well and what has not worked well through this experience? If I get an answer to that, and then I've got something else.
So Julie, has that been a discussion? Julie, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to make sure I'm not missing anything or giving any misinformation. Has that been a dialogue with the principals, or is that up for discussion right now?
It's come up for discussion a couple of times. We have asked teachers to reach out and be checking in with students. I anticipate that there will be an opportunity through some kind of feedback loop for families and for students to comment on what's happened. I want to be really clear that if we have to come back either in a remote learning situation or in a hybrid situation, which might be more likely, the expectations from the get-go will be very different than they were during this time. I just want to be clear that there's no intention to continue exactly the same way that we have been going. And while I am talking, I just want to say one more thing, which is that actually what's about a week tail between the students stopping and teachers stopping is actually on the shorter end of what some school districts are providing. There's going to be a lot of discussion about how we're staffing differently, how we're moving forward. And we want teachers in K-8 particularly to be connecting with families and to make that available. We haven't discussed all of how this would happen because we don't know until we hear this vote whether that time is actually there. But it would be very difficult to wrap up this particular year and wrap up the reporting and wrap up the kinds of discussions about, okay, let's look at this group of kids and what did they have and where are they going to need support. And it's almost like every single kid at every single school has just transferred in from another school. And that takes a lot. And so I just want to clarify that if the board is looking at a later date for students, then you also will want to take that into account vis-a-vis what teachers are going to need to do at the end of the year to serve our kids well.
So my next question is, when do you anticipate doing the work, or who's going to be part of the group doing the work to determine what it looks like in the fall? And then you can answer both of these. I've said this before and I'm going to keep saying it. I think kids are going to need additional seat time in order to make up the losses that they have experienced over this time frame. And unless we tweak our calendar next year, I don't know how you get them seat time. And so I had a conversation with a teacher the other day, and the response was, well, yeah, but everybody's in this same situation and it just is what it is. And to me, that's not an answer. From my perspective, we have to get these kids have got to be where they're supposed to be by the end of next year, in my opinion. And how do we do that? And how do we navigate that? And I would imagine that the only way to do that is seat time instruction with teachers. And whether that means that the first month of school is redoing what they didn't get at the end of this year, then so be it. We need to be in school for a month longer next year. I'll end with that.
Thank you, Ingrid. Marie?
I just wanted to echo what Christy said. When we get to the point, because I maybe misunderstood at the beginning where we were with whether or not the decision had been made about the professional development days being moved to August to better help teachers prepare for a potential online or hybrid. I'd like to echo, I think that right now, regardless of when we end, if we end at the time we were supposed to end or we end for students a week early, I don't think now is the time for the teachers to have the bandwidth that they're going to need. Administrators, anybody, to sit down and say, okay, let's figure out how to do this fall, for a number of reasons, because everybody's exhausted. And most importantly, we don't have the data. And, we don't have the data for the data that it's going to take to really, see what other school districts in other states are doing, which I know you've done already, but, think about how it worked for us, how it didn't. I don't think that there's enough, you're not going to have enough bandwidth or data to really do that well in June. I think it makes, plus there's going to be so many things, as we know, things change by the day, by the minute, by the hour, by the month here with the regulations, what we're doing, how things are going up, down. It makes no sense to try to plan for something 3 months from now in a really professional way about something that's so important. I think it needs to be something after we've gotten through this and the buildings are closed down, the teachers have what they need from their classroom, and they have time to sit back and really reflect on what it looks like. I think they'll be fresher, and I think the work will be of much higher quality. So I really push for August, moving those professional days away from the end of the school year and towards August. That's it.
Thank you, Marie. Do I have any other questions, comments? Yep, Jess.
So I'm very hesitant to say it, but I feel like it'd be doing an injustice to at least the local community that I've had contact with. As a parent, I can definitely say I can't wait for June 5th. This homeschooling has definitely been, especially with younger children, it falls on the parents, and it's just so hard to maintain on top of trying to just battle the pandemic that everything else the pandemic has caused. Just been extremely difficult, and I know that I'm not alone when I say that. especially when I'm talking to my local community. I'm worried mostly about what it's going to look like in the fall. Are these kids expected to know everything they're supposed to know in the grade beforehand, and then everything else on top of the next grade level? That's a concern. Yeah, I guess that's the height of it.
Okay, thank you. So there isn't a motion if, Charlie, you moving it? You're
Robin Sue
muted.
has it. Robin Sue
Charlie,
has done
I
it.
move, I vote to accept the recommendation of the superintendent on the calendar.
I second.
Is that Robin Sue?
Heidi.
Oh, it's Heidi. Okay. And I'm sorry if anyone was trying to do it. Like I said, I've been toggling through between 2 pages and trying to get everybody. Do we have any more comments or questions, concerns that we want to raise?
Robin Sue.
Robin Sue has her hand up.
Robin Sue.
Okay. Thanks, Robin Sue.
I guess I would sort of echo Jess's. I've heard all the comments as well. I've had a few parents reach out to me who are totally done with this homeschooling. And I get the kids who are missing out and who are great on their own. But it does come down to parents, and some of the parents who have reached out to me just want this to be done. And hopefully fall we can resume. I would love to see something the beginning of August, resume where we were if we can. I don't know how that would work for the incoming kindergartners. Maybe they don't start till September. Maybe we go the month of August for school. I don't know what it looks like. But I know there's a lot of parents who are frustrated because either they're trying to work from home and they're sharing bandwidth, or they're trying to keep their kids on task. I have one student who is on it all on their own, and I have another student who I have to be on constantly. And, it's tough trying to be the teacher and trying to get my business hopefully open. So honestly, June 5th was a shock because I thought it was going to be May 29th, but that's okay. We'll get through another week. But, so I see all sides of it and I understand it all. There are some kids who are great on their own and who are eager to learn, but there's a lot of kids who just can't do it on their own. And this has been overwhelming to them. So June 5th, if that's what you've decided, I totally agree with it. I would love to see it earlier. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Robin Sue. All right. Anybody else? Mark?
I just wanted to clarify, Madam Chair. I believe Charlie made the motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent. Just for the record, I wanted to clarify my recommendation again was to end the student date on Friday, June 5th, and for the staff date as per our contract, Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. Thank you.
Correct. Thank you.
I think that Heidi had a question or comment. Heidi Lawson.
Heidi, did you?
I did. I wanted to just get back real quick to what Christy had said about the teachers and what goes on that week, those extra days that they are supposed to be in session, and making sure that there's some type of structure. I don't know if it's the building administrators that have to be, hold them accountable, or no, I don't mean hold them accountable, but that there's good productive work being done, whether it's communicating with parents and students, or getting kids ready for the next year, or trying to figure out what it's going to look like next year. I think that that's really important, that there's some structure to those last days for the teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Thank you. All right. I don't see any more hands waving at me, so I am going to go through the voting list. So Heather Jones approves the recommendation. Todd Graham.
Approve.
Charlie Ray.
Approve.
Dwayne Bolt.
Approve.
Marie Yarborough. Marie, did you make a motion?
Sorry. No, I said yes.
Oh, I didn't hear. Okay, thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah.
Lily Simis,
Approve reluctantly.
Christy LaSquadra,
Approve.
John Bench,
Approve.
Ingrid Kashmar.
Approve.
Did Jim Sawyer ever join us? I don't hear him. Heidi Lawson,
Approve.
Jessica Stewart, Jessica, are you there? You're on mute.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. Jessica Bass,
Approve.
Gary Burr,
Approved.
Tom Reeve,
Approve.
Aaron Brown, Tammy Tripler,
Approve.
and Amy Palmer.
Approve.
Okay, it's unanimous. I thank everybody for that and for all of your comments and questions. I think, you know, everybody's comments and questions is very valid and it is of concern to, I think, all of us and as well as the administration. And I think administration has heard you and those points will be considered as we continue to move forward. Mark, do we have any other business?
I'm not aware of any, Madam Chair, and I would just like to quickly say thank you to the board for your comments and support. I know our teachers and staff and kids have risen to the occasion so far. We hear you loud and clear, and everything we do, our staff, our teachers, administrators, we do with substance, and I'm certain that we will deliver. And we appreciate the fact that you guys are holding our feet to the fire. This is hard stuff, but through your support, we're going to continue to do the right thing. So thank you, Heather, for letting me throw that in.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So no other, Lily?
Sorry. I just want to, I don't know if this is the appropriate time. I just want to make a comment. How I've said before earlier that I really have missed sitting around the table with all of you. And I know that you administration, all the administration has been working super hard. And I have felt, you know, my life has been a little bit upside down as well, but I do feel kind of disconnected with what's happening. I just want to offer if there's any kind of help that I as a board member can do, please, you know, ask for it. Or if you need someone to mobilize another group of people to do anything, I think that, you know, and I don't know what that would look like, but I just want to let you know that I'm out here and I've got some time and energy to put into something. So I don't know what your needs might be, but please call me if you need anything.
Thank you, Lily. I'm sure that's appreciated. Thank you. Public comment. We have new protocols, future agenda items. Charlie.
You know, the second half of that conversation around school calendar made me think of, you know, a lot of people were talking about future and the fall. So, you know, I have a couple questions actually that might get answered in future agenda items.
Okay.
One, and this is for Julie, whether or not the CARES Act will allow us to buy an online learning management system that'll enable future remote or online classes. To whether or not, I think on future agenda item is, you know, if summer school is in the or an early start, as Ingrid pointed out, that we may well want to change the calendar. So the calendar could be on the agenda item. And then the other thing was whether or not either the CARES Act or potentially the savings of from the healthcare on the budget, you know, the differential, the 4% differential on what we put in the budget and what hasn't really been voted on, could be redirected such that teachers could gather this summer, be compensated, and develop online learning resources that could be learning area leaders, it could be master teachers, they could volunteer to be sort of the next wave of educators building virtual stuff for our classroom. That's just the future sort of, so agenda item is, future school.
Okay, thank you. Todd?
Thanks, Charlie, for saying that. I was going to add a couple things, but I don't think I need to at this point. But I think that's really important, important enough that I just wanted to propose that I think we need to meet in June if I know that it's to be announced, but these are really important topics. And what Charlie brought up, which is what I would have said probably a little differently, but he did it right on, that there's a lot going on. There's a lot going to happen in the future. And I believe we need to get together again. I think that's going to answer Lily's question about getting connected and knowing what's going on. But I don't want to miss this opportunity in June to talk about this again.
Okay.
Can I clarify something?
Julie and then Marie. I see Marie.
So we were talking about this just this morning. We are going to be able to repurpose some of the professional development funds, and we already have money set aside for summer instructional grants. And I just want to tell you that our intent is to do very much what Charlie's saying. The funds that you mentioned using, I don't think will be needed. So I just want to clarify that, because I know that we're going to be looking at budgets and what has to happen with them. And I want people to know that we're already thinking about that, and that there are other funds which we think we're going to be able to use for that.
Thank you, Julie. Marie?
I was, as Todd was saying it, I was thinking the same thing. I think we definitely need to meet in June. I would even say that we need to stay connected every single month this summer. I mean, with how disconnected we all feel just from how the craziness that we're going through, some of us are, we're missing our regular board meetings. We need to stay on top of this, mostly because it's so important to the kids. We're the ones that are accountable for this at the end of the day. And if we don't know what's going on, and we're not, involved in that decision making and being the people that are continuing to ask how to do better, and bringing up the different viewpoints of, as community members, as parents, as, board members, and I think that's a huge chunk of time to be gone from this, which is when we usually are kind of off doing our, other things. So just want to echo June, definitely. And I think we need to connect all summer long on this.
I agree with you, Maria. I was thinking of June, and I thought that we'll probably just have to keep going with this. So, okay, Teresa.
And just to add to that, I'm not sure how it's going to be. I know there are some board members that are supposed to be stepping down. I think Charlie's one of them. And I'm not sure with the way things are going, how can there be any voting? And will the current board stay as they are? Or will it's just an automatic, like at the end of May or June or whatever, will these people just be off and these spots be vacant? Because like Charlie, for example, who's supposed to be stepping down, has a lot of wealth of understanding and insight to be a part of this. I can't speak for him, but will there be someone to help put someone new up to speed? And I'm just saying Charlie, because I don't know who else is stepping down, but or do people need to stay in their current roles until there is a voting time for the new members coming on?
So Teresa, I think we've talked about that. Charlie, I saw you raise your hand, and I'll call on you in a minute. But that is being looked into at each town. It's going to be slightly different for each town because of their particular charters. We have a MDES meeting on Wednesday, and I'm sure that's going to be addressed at that meeting at that time anyway. Charlie, did you have something to add?
No, you covered it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good questions. All right. Great future agenda items. Thank you. I do agree that we need to have a meeting in June. I'll get with Mark. I mean, we might just have the second Monday in June, which is the 8th, but we'll I'll talk with Mark and get that an agenda out. Christy.
I know this might not be appropriate for this meeting, but Marie brought it up, and I just wanted to let, I don't know about everybody else, but the Bar Harbor Board know that we will be having our May monthly meeting next week. Agendas are coming out shortly.
Okay, great, thank you. I will take a motion to adjourn. Do I need to run through everybody, Mark? Or can we just hit end meeting?
No, I actually think per the guidelines, I'm sorry, Heather, you
Right.
actually need a motion,
So,
a second. and a
I
vote.
move to adjourn.
Second,
Todd.
I
think I heard
second
Heather.
Charlie, and
Okay.
I vote yes.
Okay. Heather votes yes. Todd?
Yes.
Dwayne Bolt?
Yes.
Marie Yarborough?
Yes.
Lily Simis?
Yes.
Christy LaSquadro?
yes.
John Bench?
Yes.
Ingrid Kashmar?
Yes.
Jessica Stewart?
Yes.
Jessica Bass?
Yes.
Gary Burr?
Yes.
Tom Reeve?
Yes.
Aaron Brown?
Yes.
Tammy Tripler?
Yes.
Amy Palmer?
Yes.
Thank you. I believe that is unanimous. And everybody have a good May. I'm sure we'll be seeing some of each other with our local meetings and other meetings, and we'll see everybody else again in June. Thank
Bye,
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.